Hi, welcome back. My name is Anne and I love to share decorating projects from my home. So here's a pine table that we had that's been a bit neglected. We left it outside for a year or more, and thankfully it was very well made by a carpenter friend, so it's still good and sturdy. My husband and I were talking about whether or not we should keep it, and he said maybe we should get rid of it. So of course I immediately wanted to save it and see if I could bring it back to life and bring it inside again. So I started by gently sanding the top surface, but just a little bit because I wanted to preserve the distressed look that had naturally occurred from enduring the elements outdoors. I'll be applying a dark stain on the top called Jacobean and painting the base a rich black color called Black Beauty. Also, I'll reuse the handles and cover them with an antique gold rub and buff paint, plus a layer of brown to give it even more of an antique finish. And then to make the table a bit whimsical, my daughter and I will be stenciling the top with a tile stencil in a light brown color. It will be subtle, yet very striking and unique. I have it in mind to bring the table to our cottage because the floors are dark and I thought it would fit in perfectly there. But I'll show you at the end how it will look in our great room here at home. I wanted to try staining the top over the weathered wood to make it look like an older table. If I didn't like it, I could always sand it down to the bare wood afterwards. As I was working on it, the black paint looked streaky and the stained top looked drab. But I had to tell myself to trust the process. Once the stenciling was complete, the second coat of black was added, the top was sealed, and the finished handles were attached, and it was set up in the room with decorations. It looked totally different. So I pushed through my doubts, and I'm glad I did because it really does look amazing when all is said and done. I was curious about rub and buff because I've seen people use it for decorating projects. My first impression was that it had a strong smell, so I regret not wearing gloves. But as soon as I started brushing it on, I was so impressed at how well it covered the light paint underneath. I only had to apply one coat. The color was a bit bright, so adding an antiquing finish with some brown paint later helped to tone it down a bit. Applying brown paint and simply wiping it off will give a metallic surface an aged look. I dabbed and wiped, but ultimately you can't mess this up at all. I just tried to get the brown to stay in the crevices and tried to make both handles look as much the same as I could. For the stencil, I tried out the brown that I used to antique the handles, and it blended in a bit too much. Then we tried mixing the black and brown together to see if that helped. As we played around with it, we realized that dabbing a dry brush over the stencil created the most clean look. If it was brushed on or the brush was too wet, the paint would seep under, causing blobs or look uneven. I really enjoy whenever my kids want to help with projects like this, especially when it's a style where imperfections actually add to the look. It turned out that once I added some beige paint, it created enough contrast to make the stencil stand out, but still be subtle overall. And here's how it looks in our space. Normally I gravitate towards very simple decorating and not a lot of patterns, but I'm happy with this because although the pattern is detailed, the table itself is still rustic, neutral, and simple. I'm glad we decided to keep the table, and it was nice to have a little fun with decorating and involve my daughter in the process. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you'll find inspiration to give an old piece of furniture a playful look as well.